Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Energy RX. I am really excited to introduce you to our next guest. Today, I'm joined by Stephanie Banks. She is a highly sought after intuitive channel, mentor, guide who helps people connect deeply on the soul level. Stephanie channels from a wide range of consciousness, including souls here and on the other side, spirit guides, animals, trees, and Gaia herself. Connection and communication are central to all of her work. With a background as a speech language pathologist, her channeling journey began when her mother's dementia opened a way of communicating directly with her mother's soul. As a conscious channel, Stephanie brings humor, compassion, and depth to her work, while mentoring others to trust their inner wisdom, clarify soul purpose, and reconnect with joy. She's also the author of the book Joining Joni and a TEDx speaker sharing her unexpected path into channeling. Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on today.
Hi, Christine. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So before we began, Stephanie and I were talking about this journey of dementia and Alzheimer's and how it's become pervasive throughout every country, all walks of life. People have family members who deal with this, unfortunate journey, but there's also some possibilities in this journey that you may have to take with your loved ones. So, Stephanie, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how this began for you with this journey into channeling.
Yes, yes. So I do give some credit to my relationship with my mom and her dementia with assisting me, nudging me, maybe shoving me into the world of channeling. Because with her dementia, she had a type that affected younger people, and her symptoms may have even started in her late 40s, but definitely in her 50s. And regardless of the fact that I had this extensive clinical background in speech pathology and I was trained to work with people with memory disorders and cognitive dysfunction, I really wanted to be able to stay connected with my mom and communicate with her the way we always did, but that was not going to be. It was becoming more challenging. She wasn't understanding me. I was getting frustrated with the interactions, and none of our engagements were going swimmingly, I should say. So at the time when this all came to kind of a peak, I had a best friend who channeled. I'd never heard of channeling. I'd never known that I also could channel. And channeling then and now to me is just connecting on the soul level with any being, any essence, any soul that's here, earth side or the other side. And I had seen my friend channel souls that were walking about in human bodies. So I thought, if she could channel my mom's soul, and I could ask the questions that I really need to know, which is like, what are you here to do as a soul, and how can I support you, or how am I not supporting you, or just the specifics of what's our dynamic meant to be, what is our soul agreement or contract together. So I got to ask that through my best friend, and my best friend channeled my mom's soul, who answered all of those questions while she was still alive, giving me the opportunity to completely shift our relationship and our interactions from disconnection and frustration to laughter, silliness, playfulness, joy, and deep connection. And after seeing that transformation, I sort of figured I have got to learn how to do this for myself. So I started studying. I found mentors that taught me how to channel, how to use a pendulum, how to use a letterboard to spell out the names of my guides, for example, or answers to questions that I had. And I just kept studying, and I kept learning and kept practicing. And I studied under a world renowned psychic medium and took all the trainings she offered. And now I do this and I teach people how to do this. And I will say all the time, there's nothing special about me. Anyone can learn to channel. It's a birthright we have. We have intuition, we have imagination, and we have a right hemisphere of our brain, and we have a heart. And those are the things you need in order to be able to connect, I believe. So, yeah, I want a world in which we're all channeling, we're all trusting our inner voice of wisdom and communicating with each other on meaningful levels. And that's how channeling came about for me.
That's really beautiful. So I want to just go back to when that first communication was coming in. I'm guessing you got it in pieces, or she just did it one time. Like, how did this work? Were you able to kind of go back and forth? And she would say, "Oh, your mom's telling me this," and then you would shift how you were interacting with her. How did that part of it work?
Yeah. So the way that it worked when my best friend Jen was channeling is we would sit outside with literally a little fire going by the lake where she lived. And I would say, these are the things I'm struggling with. These are the places where I'm really frustrated. This is what I need to know from my mom. Am I doing a good job in this area? Am I showing up for you in the ways that you need me to? What's the deal with you and dad? Like, why does this look like something I need to continue to rescue him from? Why is that my inclination to insert myself here in this dynamic? What's the history there with you guys? I got to go as deep as I wanted to. And each question, I could ask the questions all at once, and then my friend would listen, and then she would tune in, and my mom's essence would come through and answer everything. Or I could ask them individually. It really didn't matter. I could follow whatever flow was present for me at the time, and everything got answered. And if something was still left a little bit unclear, we could go back into it, and I could say, well, I still don't understand why we're having trouble with this. And then I could get another layer of understanding and depth to that. So that's kind of how it looked. It was a back and forth because in between the channeled messages, my friend and I were looking at each other and chatting. And we would say, like, wow, that was an amazing transmission. What did you get from that? This is what I understood. And she'd tell me, well, this is what I saw and this is what I felt. What were you getting from it? So there was this whole processing part, which I do as well when I'm channeling for clients. I think it's essential to make the messages functional, to make them usable, to make them helpful in any way, process through what that actually means for you and what's really in the field.
Yeah. Okay, so when you were doing when the transmissions were coming in and her soul came forward to bring this information, were you able to, in that moment, sort of respond back to her, that there could
Mhm.
be communication between the two of you back and forth from you to the soul essence of your mom?
Yeah, sometimes I did that. Sometimes it was like I was having the conversation and my friend just stayed tuned in and she would respond as my mother did. Other times it would be me and Jen having conversation, her tuning in, coming out of the transmission, talking some more. So yeah, we just took all different directions and flows with it, which you can do with channeling.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many potentials and possibilities, and in my work, I continue to it keeps on like mushrooming out and getting bigger and bigger. So I never say, "Oh, that's not possible," because
No,
there's a lot's possible.
that's right.
And then you started to notice your relationship improve with her
Yeah, but
as the
because
channel.
right. So the channeling, it wasn't the channeling itself that changed the relationship. It was my choice to use the information provided to me through the
Mhm.
channeling to shift our interactions and our dynamic. So for example, with the situation with my dad, I really was intervening in ways that were not my business, but it felt like he needed rescuing. Her type of dementia resulted in very like harsh mood swings. And so she would sometimes become very agitated and angry and blameful. And
Right.
as a highly sensitive being, I would swoop in and try to soften everything, and try to distract her or try to intervene on his behalf, also on my own behalf, and also just on the behalf of harmony because I really wanted harmony.
Yeah.
And what I learned through information her soul shared was that this interference was actually disruptive to their soul's agreement to work out what they were here to work out. And when she had these outbursts, yes, it was uncomfortable for everybody. And my dad had his own way of managing this, and it was the way she needed him to manage it. And this was pre-existing. This was part of their soul's agreement. They had had a previous lifetime, at least one, in which he had made agreements or promises to her, and not all of them were kept. This is what I learned through channeling.
Okay.
And this lifetime for him, whew, I have so many chills, was was one in service to clearing that up, showing up for her in the way, whatever ways that he couldn't do in that last lifetime, now he was going to do. And whether that was withstanding the harsh words and moods and energy that were spewing, from her in the difficult times, or whether that was providing her with the greatest support and best care, which he also did, or whether that was just constant forgiveness and acknowledgement that this isn't you. This is a sick, an unwell version of you. And so I recognize and understand and honor that. All of it got to be his. But when I came in with my superhero cape on and thought, I'm going to make everybody more comfortable, it disrupted the flow that they had together. And I did not know that, but I learned that. So having that information let me choose differently. I got to lovingly extract myself from their dynamic. I got to ask my dad separately, what do you need from me? I know you've got this, you have a lot of this well under control, but maybe there are some parts that you would like me to be in service to. And then he could ask me and put my skills to use, like helping him recruit for caregivers for her was one of the ways that he really did need my support. Never once did my father say to me, please continue to swoop in and change, and disrupt our conversation and our interaction and our dynamic. Not once, because that's not what he needed. And I had to hear that from my mom's essence to really understand.
Yeah. Okay, I think this is so important. I'd love for you to talk more about, because I think we can personally have relationships or people that we love who can have these very complex relationships. And we can have a savior mentality of we want to fix that relationship or change that person or whatever that may be, not understanding that maybe they're behaving in certain ways because there's an agreement. Can you talk about soul contracts in that way and how people may come in and from if you're an outsider looking into a person or a relationship, how you have that savior mentality that you want to have, but that maybe it's best to tune into their soul essence to try to understand what their mission actually is.
Yeah. Well, I'm not an expert on soul contracts in general, but I can say,
Okay.
based on my lived experience and what I observed with my parents, that um, first of all, this is a very tricky and nuanced thing because all of us take on certain roles in our families. And Savior is a good one, right? Rescuer, instigator, the black sheep of the family, whatever the title is. And we become so accustomed to playing those out that we are not so able to see clearly what dynamics predated us and need to stay in place for as long as those people, those players, those souls need for them to stay in place. Because my parents had a journey of growth that was entirely their own to have. And being in it, especially adding dementia to into the mix, was so deeply uncomfortable for me that I would just scramble to play whatever role I was most familiar with playing to intervene there. But if we were observing and not absorbing, we could take in a lot more understanding of what's happening here. We could actually take stock of our contributions, and of course, it did take my mom's communication through channeling to alert me to this. I would not, if I never had channeling, if I never had my best friend to ask these questions and channel for me, I don't know that I'd have any depth of understanding of what my part was, my contribution was within that. But we can train ourselves to become better observers. We can also
Mhm.
train ourselves to ask questions on a deeper level, on a soul level. We can train ourselves to attune to subtle energy, to the energy of spirit, to the energy of essence. And when we do that, there are layers and gobs of information that can come through that will be really quite illuminating for us, astonishing sometimes, but always in service to love. Always, always, always in service to love. And it's our relationships where we do our greatest growth. That's why they're so challenging. So this isn't simple. This isn't easy. I'm not proposing at all. Just channel your loved one and it will forever change everything. No, there were actionable steps that I needed to take and continue to choose in order to shift the relationship that I had with my mom and really with other family members as well. Um, but when we have a soul agreement with someone, if we do not get the opportunity to play that out, guess what? We're coming back to do it again. And I say, no, thank you.
Yes, I mean, that should be a really powerful motivator to be like, "Wait, I don't wanna come back and do the same thing again with you, so let's clear this now. Let's figure this out."
Yeah. Yes, exactly, exactly. So that's a choice I made. Also, when you choose to join someone, like my mom in this case, her reality was very different in her dementia than what all the other, people around her were experiencing. And I could push against that, which I had been doing in many ways, and I could keep trying to bring her back to our reality.
Yeah.
But what I also learned from her channeled messages was that she said, "Will you please stop doing that? That is so annoying. I don't want to be in your reality. I am doing things, I am interacting with, I am having conversations with, connecting with people, with beings that you cannot even imagine. And so you're yanking me back into the most mundane of conversations for sure. I'm positive they were, and taking me from that which is really in many moments, maybe not all moments, but in those moments where she was looking zoned out and I was assuming that we'd lost her and I needed to quick, do a recognizance mission and bring her back.
Yeah.
No, I could have just joined her there. I could have held silent space for her. I could have shown just some gentle curiosity. Hey, mom, what's making you smile right now, or what's making you kind of, where are you, what are you sensing, what are you seeing? Joining them, that's what she really taught me. That's why the book I wrote about this journey is joining Joni. That was the lesson. How do I become part of her world and reality rather than insist that she be attached to or participating in mine? And it was much richer joining her.
So, if you've had any experience with someone who has dementia or Alzheimer's, or if you do in the future, one of the things that I've noticed is that like their affect on their face can be very not much expression, very still, and so they almost we can put our own beliefs on it. Oh, they must be not feeling well. They must be feeling sad, where we infuse our own beliefs based on they're not smiling or eyes twinkling. And I think I was listening to you talk about on a podcast about don't have your own judgments about where they are, because if they're sitting there with that expression, that does not mean that they're unhappy. And that was an aha for me.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yes. It's called flat affect, and that's exactly what it is. It's non-expression, non-facial expression. And as a culture, we are so uncomfortable with that. If we smile at someone and they do not smile back, that is a personal attack these
Yeah.
days, right?
Yes.
Or a threat of some sort. And so
Yeah.
to watch someone, because my mom used to be a very vivacious, effusive, verbally, emotionally expressive person. So this was the hardest part of her personality that we had to adjust to, that had changed drastically. But just because I interpreted her facial expression or her body language to be in a certain way, it didn't necessarily mean that that was her internal experience. I'll actually never know for sure what was her total internal experience. I have channeling to help inform me a bit, but still I'll never know for sure. That was her world, her life that she lived. But it's absolutely correct. We superimpose our expectations and our cultural and societal and familial norms and conditioning upon how we think others should be expressing or reacting or responding. But there's a better connection point, and that's the soul. And I could feel, once I learned to listen deeply, I could feel my mom's essence speaking to me, through me, making requests, sharing the need for lightness and levity, and how we could tap into that together.
Would you even get so your lightness and levity, some of these broad things, but would you get some specific information too, like, oh, I really love a hot fudge sundae, or like some like very normal everyday life things that she was having a craving for something, or I'd like to go someplace. Would you get specific things, or is it more generalized?
Yeah. Well, it was trial and error actually, because I might have an idea, like, wouldn't it be, I might get a sense that her soul would like to be creative. So I'd invite her over to the house, maybe to bake something with me and my kids. That's like, and then very soon, if it's all about timing too, right? With dementia, sometimes you can hit the timing right on and the person is in the right mood and has the attention and the capacity for it. And yay, you feel like you got it. And then other times you don't, you feel like that's, it's all for nothing. But that particular day, I thought it would be fun to bake cookies together. Was not. It was not fun to bake cookies together. So there were many moments where I just abandoned the task. Other moments where I literally left a grocery store with items in the basket because she just couldn't, it was too much stimulation for her. But she might have said, I want to go be around people and I want to go be around food. Like on a soul level, she's telling me this is the kind of stimulation that I would like. But again, timing is everything. It doesn't mean that the channeled message was wrong or my connection to her or my understanding of it. It's just all about like the moods shifting so quickly. But when we would get it good is when she always had a desire to be helpful. And this was something that for her was very important. So if she would come over to my home for dinner, she wanted a task. Her soul and herself basically showed me and told me, I need busy hands. I need purposeful hands. And while I couldn't give her things to cook because that's a safety issue and a little dangerous, I could let her set the table. I could find tasks that would busy her hands, give her a sense of purpose, and she would feel were very meaningful and contributory. The table would be set in really weird ways, Christine. Like,
I
and this
kind
is
of love
something,
that. That would be kind of fun, actually.
this is the point. This is the point because who says the fork has to go there? Who
Yeah.
says the knife has to go there? Who says the napkin can't be stuffed into a water glass before
Yeah.
there's water? Like, right?
Yeah. Everyone
So
gets a different configuration.
totally, yes. And she'd ask me how many people. Oh, we're going to have 8 for dinner, and then there would be 12 place settings, or it didn't matter. It didn't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I did. I was frazzled, and I had 3 young kids. It was
Fun.
chaotic, and this was one more thing to manage. But when I had the resources, I, I could celebrate this and be like, Mom, that is so cool. I love what you did with that saucer. I love I love what you did putting the spoon upside down, like under the plate, like whatever
Yeah.
it was.
So
We
creative.
could, yes, totally creative. I don't know if that answers your question, but it allowed me to get out of my own perfectionism
Yeah.
and to join her and be playful. And other times everything could be just spiraling out of control. And I would take her hand and say, let's go dance in the kitchen. And I
Oh.
would sing a song from my childhood, something totally nonsensical, but that she would know the tune to. And
Mhm.
she would pump her arms up and down, and we would march around the island, and we would be silly and goofy, and my kids would think this was the greatest thing ever. And it always broke up that energy, that intense, and let us just relax and enjoy and be playful and at ease. And I'll always suggest that to people. If you seem to be failing at ways to connect, go to playful energy. That will almost always work. It's just something inherent in us that we unfortunately lose or forget or don't practice enough as adults, but it's always there. Play some music, dance, be silly, laugh. It's a beautiful reset.
I think that's a beautiful reset for someone with Alzheimer's or dementia or young kids or other people, but bringing in some fun, some play, and just we're gonna rearrange this energy here in a new way.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful tip. And for people listening, you may or may not have someone that you know that's struggling with dementia, but store this information away for later because it's likely that you will know someone at some point in your life who goes through this.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I think most of us are, if we don't already, we will. It doesn't necessarily have to be a family member, but yeah, we will know someone who is dealing with this. And this information, this new approach, this new way of conceiving of what it actually is, can be very, very powerful. And there are plenty of people who listen to my messaging around this with dementia specifically and say, I had a feeling that my grandmother or my spouse or my loved one was really doing something way cooler than I originally thought, but I just couldn't prove it, or I didn't know how to ask them about it, or didn't know how to trust it. It doesn't have to all be lost. There are ways to regain connection no matter what's going on.
I love what you're saying too about what that they are doing other things on other planes, other levels. I mean, I'm not sure if you've listened to the telepathy tapes or anyone listening has listened to the telepathy tapes about how nonverbal autistic people are having this incredible reality, an incredible world where they connect with each other on this place called the Hill, and they talk to guides. And so it entirely makes sense to me that if you have Alzheimer's or dementia and certain senses and capacities are shutting down, that other ones may be lighting up. And so I hadn't thought about them also moving into another reality and another world and doing work on other planes of existence while still in this physical body. So
I totally
fascinating.
believe. Yeah, I totally believe that. Not an expert for sure, but go to the telepathy tapes and learn from the experts because what she's doing is absolutely phenomenal. The interviews and the studies, the very qualified studies that she's performing to prove that this is
Yeah.
actually a valid form of communication and exchanging information, and the way these beings are supporting each other in this very hard dimension for them, which is not set up right now to allow and to love and to accept. And here they are finding one another on the hill, like you said.
Uh, Finding them on the hill. So anyhow, I love the idea. It actually like makes my heart happy to
Mhm.
think about because we feel so sorry for people with dementia and Alzheimer's and being trapped in their bodies, and that maybe potentially, very possibly, they are also having some really profound spiritual experiences while they're in there. So I'd love to shift gears because you are a channel. You channel all kinds of you. We can talk about all the ways that you channel things, but you talked about right now at this point, where now the telepathy tapes that's becoming part of our consciousness that we're shifting. We have so much happening on the planet. You channel Gaia. There is like so much compression happening, yet also so much expansion happening sort
Mhm.
of at the same time. Can you just talk a little bit about, maybe from Gaia's perspective or your perspective, this particular time that we're in that seems to be so poignant in human history?
Yes. Well, the way I am personally experiencing it is a call to action,
Huh?
a global call to action. And ultimately, if we just distill it down to one concept that we're being called to, it's love. Of
Yeah.
course, it's always going to be love. What does that mean, however? So I love the earth deeply, like crazy madly. I talk to the trees, they talk back to me. The animals I'm obsessed with, I told you I have 4 senior dogs, and at
Mhm.
some point I hope to have 11. So I just really have this deep connection to not just humanity, but to all life forms for all time. And it can feel for those built like me that this that we are losing ground constantly. We're losing species every day. This is a fact. We are decimating our forests. This is a fact. Like there is an attack on nature for the extractive angle of our culture, and the wasteful, angle of our culture. So it's come to a place. It's been here for a while. It's not this 2026, but we have been in a place where we have a reckoning that we must do individually and collectively. And they both really do have to happen if we are to choose, if humanity is to choose to further life on this planet, to protect life, to promote life, to be in reciprocity and harmony with life. We have a reckoning to do. On an individual level, it's deep work, but it really starts so simply. I tell people, like, go outside, just go outside and let nature have her way with you. Let her drain energy from you that you do not need, that does not support you. Let yourself be in awe of the birds. That, for me, it's iguanas. They're my new, like, wow, they look like dinosaurs and they're everywhere here. And the tree, I have so many stories about trees bringing messages, very clear messages that other people are there to witness and hear at the same time. So that's a simple step. It will reconnect you with the truth of your own nature. The truth is that we are nature. It's not humans and then animals, or humans and then earth. We are
Yeah.
all one. It is the oneness that we are being invited, that Gaia is inviting us to come back to. I feel her as a mother would feel if her children were destroying her, right? Anyone who is parenting, how would it feel if all of the resources, all of the generosity, all of the endless giving that you do as a parent went unappreciated, unnoticed, undervalued, and just completely taking? If the relationship was only about taking and exploiting, that cannot continue. There just isn't a way for that to continue. We cannot continue to enjoy life and resources and what we have come to expect on this planet as things are right now. So this is the global reckoning. And on an individual level, how do we want to shift our behaviors? How do we want to educate ourselves? How do we want to choose differently in the purchases that we make, the clothing on our bodies, the food on our plates? These are micro decisions that have macro impact. There is no neutral choice. Again, this is my beliefs. This is based on my study and learning and understanding. So this is the work. This is the joy, the excitement. This is the privilege of choosing to be a soul with a body, alive, at this moment in time. Is we are making choices, and they will have profound effects. And we get to do this now. And then we get to invite others, and we get to join communities, and we get to be part of something far, far bigger than ourselves, in service to something far greater than ourselves. And yes, it's a very exciting time. There's a lot of grief. I feel it every single day. And there's a lot of there's a lot of shift, a lot of expansion, a lot of change. There's a massive amount of us that are moving in the direction of service and of care and of love.
Yeah. I feel all of those things too. It's interesting. This Christmas was the first year ever. I I have 3 kids also. We didn't do gifts this year. It
Mhm.
was like there was just something in me. I'm like, I just can't go out and buy stuff this year.
Yeah,
It just felt so unaligned for me. It's not that I don't love my kids. We'd had experiences and, we did other things, but I'm like, no one needs anything. It's
no,
just no wrapping paper and the book, like all of the stuff and the things. I want to like connect heart to heart and do things and have fun. It's not that I'll never buy a gift. I'm not saying that. I mean,
right.
gift giving's a beautiful thing, and showing your love and your gratitude. Um, but for me, I think it is going to be way, 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 way pared back in the future, because it feels very out of alignment with me to
Mhm.
consume in those same ways.
Yeah. Yes, and this is part of the shift, right? Individually, collectively, yes. And nobody misses items. Nobody misses items. The problem is that all of our items make us sick. Like we have hoarding issues, we have, attachment to things, to stuff. And then when we don't know who actually made it, was it creating hardship and slavery practices for those that actually produced that, and where was it extracted from? Like once you start to peel away the layers, which I understand and I honor, this feels overwhelming to do, but go ahead and do it small scale at first. Educate yourself about where your food is coming from, who's growing it, what are the practices there. Go to your farmers market, get to know the growers, the farmers. They're amazing people. Like let's bring it back to a simple way where community cares about each other, where neighbors get to know one another. This I feel is the way of love, the path of transformation.
Yeah, that's a really good point of the things that you have, understanding that everything is energy. It's all vibrating. So, of course, if you're buying a shirt that was in a sweatshop from some young child, that is going to be vibrating into the very fabric of that item. So,
Yeah.
the more you understand energy, the more you want to align with energy that comes from a place of, care and for humans and the world. So it's
Yeah.
that's a really good tip to just start looking a little bit more deeply um, into where you are getting all of your resources from. So,
Yes, yes, exactly. For example, this poncho that I am
mhm,
wearing was made by beautiful women in India who I
mm,
met on a video. I can't say I met them, we weren't talking, but I was watching them working under phenomenal working conditions with fair, not only fair wages, but excellent wages, pulling their families out of poverty, educating their children. And I'm like, I want to buy everything these ladies are making. Just send it
oh
my
my,
way.
you know what the organization is?
Yeah, I can send it to you. It's called Blue Nomad, BLU, and it's a
Okay.
local woman here that has trained them all to be, quality seamstresses and source fine fabrics and make these things that over here we're just going nuts for, but doing so in a way that's supporting entire communities across the globe.
That feels so good. I'm gonna have to get online when we get off because I wanna wrap myself in a shawl and a poncho that's made with that. I mean, you just
Yes,
feel better. You feel better
yes,
when you're wearing that vibration. So,
yes,
a blue nomad.
100%.
I'm gonna
Yes.
look that up. Okay, so I want to ask you, you talked about you've gotten some really powerful messages from the trees
Mhm.
lately. Are there certain themes that the trees are talking about right now? Is there something that the trees want us to know?
They want us to know them.
Hmm.
They want us to notice. It's very interesting, Christine, because I just relocated to my childhood home. So this has been my family's home for decades. I was living elsewhere because this was my parents' home, but when my father passed, I made the decision to move back home. And so as I walk through this neighborhood, the trees actually know me.
Yeah.
They know me. They knew me from an 8-year old, 9-year old, 10-year old, all the way through, right? I have walked dogs through their under their canopies. I have kissed boyfriends, on the sidewalks as they observe. So it's just it's such a beautiful thing to be not just the one who is observing nature, but nature is observing us. And what is nature noticing about us? And I'll tell you a really awesome story. As part of preparing the home for my family, I was doing some fencing of the yard, and there was a particular area of the yard that had some trees in it, and the people doing the fencing were like, "Can we just trim these trees, or like move them back so we can have a nice, neat little angle of the fence?" And my answer is usually no. The trees were here first. The trees stay. If they're healthy trees, if there's no reason to, disturb them. But the men doing the work were like, but really, lady, this will be so, if can we just trim it? So I for a moment thought, am I okay? Is this tree okay with being trimmed? We were having this conversation literally directly in front of the tree. We were there with her, with the tree, as we were talking about it. So I paused to feel, is it okay to trim? It was like a whole branch thing that we would have had to remove for the fence. In the moment that I paused to check in, a huge leaf. It's called a scheffalera tree, and they have leaves that are a foot or longer and fairly wide. They have some heft to them. It's not like it just floats to the ground like a feather. So as I take a moment to think, a big old yellow leaf drops from the tree and smacks me in the shoulder. It is audible. It's an audible
Oh
smack.
my gosh.
The men who were waiting and hoping I would say yes, trim the tree, saw and heard the smack. And
Oh
we
my
all looked at each other, and I said, I think we have the answer.
God.
You
She
leave
says,
it
okay.
alone. She says, back off. I was here first. Wake up, woman. You are our advocate.
Oh, so was it a no? Was the answer no? She can't, you
It was
can't,
a no.
no.
It was
Okay.
a no. Yes, she was waking me up because up until that point, I had been very consistent. We will not disturb the trees. We will
Mm,
put our artificial fencing where it is in honor to the beings that belong on this land. I do not believe that humans are meant to dominate everything, like dominate anything. Look at the mess we've made.
wow.
So, no, her answer was
No.
no. She
Okay.
was waking me up like, hello, I'm here. Don't forget me. I'm here. Your fence isn't here. Your
Yeah.
fence doesn't belong here. Move the fence around me. And that's exactly what we did. I can look outside. We had to use different materials, a totally different sort of fence. It bumps out, it comes around, it goes back
I love
because
it.
the tree, yes, that's
Yeah,
as
the
it
tree
needs
is
to
made,
be.
not trim. Oh, that is a great story. That's a great story. I know
So if
recently.
we're awake, I'm sorry, I'm just going to
No, no,
finish
no.
to get to your question. If we are awake when we are outside and we are noticing and we are even just note it, like just appreciate the tree. Like, you are so beautiful today. You can say that. You can say it aloud. You can say it through your heart. Trees like to be hugged. I have been on many hikes where I cannot resist flinging my arms around a tree. I used to be embarrassed because people would walk by and I would feel really awkward. But now when I do it, there are people who come by and they're like, I like to do that too. And they'll
Oh,
whisper to me, or they'll be like, yay, tree huggers. Right? So we're a whole community out there. Hug the trees, notice the trees, appreciate the trees, the beings, the worms. I channel worms for a client of mine who's into vermiculture.
okay.
The worms have messages. Listen,
What
just
do the
listen.
worms
They're
say?
not holding back.
I have to know a
What'd you
message from
say?
the worm.
Yeah.
I have.
Okay.
What are
So
the worms saying?
yes. So the worms, not surprisingly, bring us into the arena of taking trash and nourishing ourselves with it. So taking what's unwanted, taking what would otherwise be viewed as waste, and making it, transmuting it, transforming it into something magical and nourishing. This is, of course, their job, right? They break down nutrients. You can put food scraps, you can put hair, you can
Right.
put cardboard, like worms eat everything. And then they make this beautiful poop, which we get to use as compost, which is what our soil needs in order for our plants to be healthy, which is what we need in order to be healthy by eating the healthy plants. So their messaging brings us back to the very, very basics of existence. Be aware. Like, first of all, part of the message is, can you just notice us? Can you look at the ground now and then and be like, wow, you're an amazing being, or wow, you look a little dry sitting there on the sidewalk on this hot day. Let me move you to a moister area of the earth. I am always moving worms now. I can't walk by a worm
Well,
that's
now
that's
you're
in
friends with
peril.
worms. Yeah. So it's your job. And you know what? You just made me realize I had never thought of worms in this way, but they are like these masters of alchemy. I
A
mean,
hundred percent.
so rethinking how you like talk about transmuters, the worms are the most powerful alchemists.
Exactly. It's amazing. It's wild. So when you come back to these realizations, which we have come very far from, right?
Mhm.
Because we're on our screens and we're in our walls and we're nosed in our books or whatever it is, not to diminish what we're doing, but we have lost our connection to nature. It doesn't take much to get back to it. You
Yeah.
just did it yourself, Christine, when you're like, oh, worms are alchemists. Oh my God. So that kind of awe, that kind of inspired energy, that is what all of nature is asking us to do, to come back to that. That's where she can teach us, lead us, guide us, source us.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And it's that I think as children, we naturally have this incredible ability to just have the awe and wonder, which really is our natural state. And we just have so many thoughts and situations in life that is like gotten in the way of that. But if we can kind of undo that a little bit and get back to the awe and wonder and really the magic of nature, that's such a beautiful place to be. You cannot go and sit on a rock in a dark sky place and look at the cosmos and feel the power of the stone beneath you and not be in total awe. But you
Yeah,
don't have to be there. You can be in your garden. You can be in a
that's right.
park and
Mhm.
find that level of awe if you allow yourself to return to that childlike mind.
Definitely, definitely. And you can even just plant a seed inside your apartment in a
Yeah.
pot, right? Like there's plenty of people who live in very crowded conditions who cannot, or it's very difficult to get out into nature. I think that's the ultimate is to do it anyway, like find a way, but plant something, watch a seed become a sprout, become a plant, become a strawberry or a Brussels sprout
Yeah.
or whatever, a flower.
Yeah.
It's miraculous and it brings us back to the miracle of life, which is what we are. We are all a part of that.
Yeah. And just returning, it's such a good message and reminder that we are nature. We're not
Mhm.
we're not outside of nature. We're coexisting with all of it. So I love to shift gears. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And that aha of worms being the master alchemist. You also in your work, so you channel for people, you'll channel, and I've heard you say that the way you work with people is when they come to you, you're like, well, who do you want to hear from or what do you want to know? Is that correct?
Yeah.
So you're really in collaboration with your clients and the information that they're getting. But you also, and additionally, you teach channeling.
Mhm.
Is that correct? And so you teach
Yes.
people how to do it for themselves. For me, and like you, I've studied a lot and spent a lot of time in this realm. Belief is for me the most important thing. Of believing what you're getting is actually
Mhm.
real. So
Mhm.
how do you coach people or work people with people to trust themselves and believe in the information that they're getting? It's for people who are listening who may not be able to take one of your courses.
Mhm.
Um, what would be some tip that you could give them so that they could have deeper trust in the messages they're getting?
Yeah. That's a great question. Well, first I would say, I would remind all of us, because I need this reminding too. A belief is just a thought that we have continued to think enough times to believe it, and then it becomes part of what our reality is or what we believe reality is. So guess what that means? We get to change our beliefs. So if you currently have beliefs that don't support you, don't feel good, make you feel small, insignificant, invisible, unwell, whatever it is, you can actually start the process of thinking differently repeatedly enough to create a new belief. It's kind of like habit, changing a habit. And our thoughts our repetitive thoughts are habitual.
Yep.
So if you currently don't believe that you can channel with souls on the other side, or souls, or plants or animals or whatever, but you would like to believe
Hmm.
that, then go ahead and come up with a new statement, a new thought, a new idea that feels just a little bit to the right of the belief that I can't, or that's not possible, that maybe it is possible, or some people can. You could even start there. Some people are able to connect with spirit in this way, through the natural world, through souls. Think that again, think that again, think that again. Look for evidence. You have the entire internet. You can
Hmm.
find anything you want on the internet. It can support your old belief, your new belief. You can use it as the framework from which to create new beliefs, but start to follow and study the people that resonate with you, who are doing the thing that you believe, because you were taught to believe it, is not real, is not a thing. And that
Yep.
will start to soften some of where you might be blocking yourself. That's what I would first suggest. Start to expand what might be possible by looking for the people who are doing the work that you resonate with. How will you know you resonate with it? Your heart. Your heart will tell you immediately. It will
Mhm.
feel open and curious and expanded and leaned in, or it will feel tight and constricted and, danger, danger, danger sort of thing. It's not going to be your mind that tells you it. This is where we get caught up. So tap into the heart, learn how to attune with the signals of the heart. I suggest you go to Heart Math Institute and
Mhm.
practice their quick coherence technique, because it is a really effective way to bring the brain and the heart into coherent energy together. And that's a good place to retrain yourself to be more open to that which feels better to you to believe. In terms of a practice that you can do right away for channeling, I would recommend that if you have a loved one, say on the other side, so an ancestor that feels very loving to you, that you trust,
Mhm.
you can invite them. I utilize them, their beauty, their love, their essence, their presence, which continues even beyond the body's lived experience, to be a guide for you, to be support for you, to walk with you. You can, from the moment you open your eyes in the morning, you can say, Grandma Rose, I would really love to go on a walk with you today, to be in the presence of your love. Will you join me? And trust that she's there. That's my Grandma Rose always is there. But when I invite her, say even into my dreams, which I do sometimes at night before I go to bed, Grandma Rose would be really fun to play together in my dreams. I trust that she shows up and we do something pretty cool together. I might not remember it. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It didn't happen. Um, so find a trusted, loved one, essence that you can establish and build relationship with. It's far too easy for us to doubt ourselves in this current global state. In fact, that is what is more desired for, I would guess, those who are holding a lot of power would like you to doubt yourself. They would
Mhm.
like you to only believe what they feed you to believe. So this is an act of defiance. Please do it. It is an act of re-embodiment. It is an
Mhm.
activation of your own self-trust. So find your ancestor, your beloved one. I think it's easier to start with one who's on the other side than one who's in body, because then we get messy with personalities and, well, they're not acting like a very good guide for me anymore, and we can get fickle about that. But a grandparent or a great aunt or an uncle or someone who you only felt loved by, you only felt acceptance with, that's a safe one to start with channeling. Yeah, that's where I would go.
That is a great tip, and we could veer off in a whole other podcast talking about this, but you talked about it's an act of defiance. I mean, if you look at most religions in the world, of the constriction that it places around people, that you need an intermediary between you and
Right.
the divine, that you don't have the capacity, that you're small and sinful and all of these things.
Right.
So tearing down all of those beliefs to realize that you yourself are connected to all that there is. So how could you not be connected to the whatever word you want to use, universal intelligence, God, divine, whatever it is. So of course you have the worth and the value, every single one of us, to be able to tap into this if you can get out of your own way.
Yes. And remember to be really gentle with yourself and take a small step repeatedly. Take the same step over and over and over again until that old belief of not enoughness or needing someone else to, to do something or feed something to you, till that becomes so invisible, so non-existent that your new belief is now in place. What's the next one you'd like to believe? What's the next thing about yourself that you really truly sense at your deepest place is true, but you have just been taught otherwise and believed it because it was taught enough times?
I think that's a great tip. I'd love to add on. I think you can be playful with this too and play a game. Whatever that may be, that you may want to ask for signs like, oh, I'd like to, to see a blue butterfly, or my mom, who's not very spiritual. I have been since I was a child. I didn't grow up with religion or spirituality, but it's just always been part of me. But when her mom died, I remember she said to me, she said, the most amazing thing has happened. And I said, what? And she said, well, when I drive, I can feel my mom sit in the car next to me. And she always gets me the best parking spots. and and she was noticing this, and so of course I confirmed that. I'm like, of course, like, what a beautiful time to be with you. And so then I thought to myself, I said, wow, you have this, guardian angel in the parking lots getting you the best parking spots. And so I said, Mayor, I would like for you also to drive with me and get me great parking spots.
Yes.
And now she has been gone for more than 20 years. I am not kidding you. I have the world's best parking lot luck imaginable. My husband also, he's super science. It's funny, we're married. I have this big like polarity. He's like, you do you, I'll do me, which is fine. But if he's driving, he will drive around and get frustrated and go far. If I drive, we're like right up at the front. And he's like, I don't understand. I don't like it frazzles his brain. And so he just needs to not talk about it too much. But you can ask your loved ones, if you have loved ones on the other side, or your spirit guides or whatever it is, to intervene in small ways for you that you can notice. Things that some of the bigger things are harder to notice. Something like a parking spot, something silly and small. And I also, by the way, I have gratitude. I say, like, it's this fun connection point. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. So she knows that I'm acknowledging that she has come in and intervened on my behalf to have this beautiful spot lined up for me that I just pull right into. And my kids laugh. I think my daughters now, so now all of my kids drive. I think they've also, even though they didn't really know her, they're like, we've got to get in on this action of the parking lot luck.
I cannot believe you just used that example because I also have a parking spot ancestor.
Oh,
And yes, and this is my Uncle Jerry. And the interesting thing is when he was alive, he literally did go to a parking spot and put his body in it to reserve a place for me when I was going to this certain spot area for a facial that was hard to park with. So when he passed, I started to experiment and ask him. I would tell him when I was on my way. I'm like, Uncle Jerry, I have a
mhm.
facial appointment. Please, if you're not, distracted or busy, could you get me that great spot I love right out front so I don't have to walk to my car and expose my skin to sun, which I know is not good for me? Every single time I remember, that spot opens up either while I'm driving up, someone's leaving it, or it just happens to be open. And I've told enough people about it, Christine, just like you, that my friends are now like, I'm calling on Uncle Jerry. I have to go to a concert tonight
Yeah,
and I want to find he is helping everybody. So Mayor, Uncle Jerry, take your pick, people, but
yeah,
call on
make your
them.
they love it, but I do think it's important. They love to be acknowledged.
100%. I
They
always
love
say
the
yes.
acknowledgement.
I
when
always say thank you. I'm always like, overly enthusiastic because
Yeah.
to me, it's a miracle every single time it happens. I'm like, oh, Uncle Jerry, you did it again. You are amazing at this. Oh my, and then I will go in and I will tell my friend Kate, who does my facial, Kate, I got the spot. Uncle Jerry helped me again. And she'll say, yeah, I used Uncle Jerry the other night too. He really came through.
And your ancestors, if you have ones that you think are helpful like that, call on them for and these little fun small tasks that really they are these areas that brighten your day because when you have this little spark of sort of something magical happening in your day, it actually, what I would say is it lets the rest of your day open up into this more expansive, more magical day. It's not winning the lottery. It's not some huge other thing. It's these like moment to moment to moment, little wonderful things that spark and happen for you. And it makes your day so much more joyous and fun and playful.
Yes. And then we train ourselves to look for the
Yeah.
synchronicities and celebrate them. And then we activate more. This is the way to live. This is the way
Mhm.
to live.
I 1,000% agree. I have had so much fun chatting with you. Before we jump off, is there anything else I haven't brought up that you'd like to talk about?
I don't think so. I've had a great conversation with you. I think we've covered a lot of ground.
I think we have too. What is the best way for people to connect with you?
They can go to my website. It is soulinsight.com. And on social media, I am at Stephanie Intuitive Channel.
Okay, so I do want to. I had a moment of panic yesterday because because I was listening to some of your podcasts because I love that you give me your time and I want to understand who you are so we
Mhm.
can have a conversation. And I heard you say on a podcast, you said, "Oh, there's two Stephanie Banks intuitive channels." And then I thought, oh my God, have I been listening to the wrong Stephanie Banks? All of these podcasts. So I had to go and Google, like, and then go look at your email. Do I have the right one?
Yeah,
So be aware that if you want to find this lovely Stephanie Banks, that there's another one out there. So look for her specific website. Don't just Google Stephanie Banks.
correct. Yes. Isn't that wild that there are two who do the same? I mean, we work very differently, and she's a lovely person. And yes, I have had clients who've said, wait, I scheduled with you. I don't understand how this works. And I will look at my schedule and say, I think you scheduled with someone different, but she's really amenable to we handle it and the person
Okay.
gets on my schedule. But yes, don't just type in stephaniebanks.com or org. That will not bring you to my work. It is soulinsight.com.
Okay. That will be linked in the show notes. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Stephanie, thank you for a delightful conversation.
Oh, thanks to you, Christine. My heart is full.
Oh, me too. Bye bye.